All right, welcome in everybody. We have another really exciting podcast here for you guys. So we're lucky enough to be joined by our client Jamey from Lucky Dog Canine Academy. And Jamey's been working with us for about 6 months now. And she's just had this incredible kind of like rise here in her business. And so we were just talking about before we started recording here about her numbers and stuff like that. So she's going to be sharing all that with you guys and just like generally the experience she's had so far working with us here at Top Dog Advertising. So without further ado, Jamey, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell everyone a little bit about you, who you are, and kind of how you got started as a dog trainer.
Okay. Well, hi everybody. I'm Jamie, and I started in dog training years ago when I was in high school. I started in 4-H. I had a miniature schnauzer that loved to take off and run, and that got me into training and wanted to get her over that. But I started officially as my career in, let's see, 2015. I was looking for a way to make a change in my life, and I wanted to find a way that I could help change others' lives and help make a difference in their lives. And dog training kind of as a career came into my life randomly out of the blue. And I spent a month away learning how to train. And then I came back home and worked for multiple different companies over the years until finally we decided that we were ready to open our own place and do our own thing. And the rest is history. And we've been doing that for about 3 years now. And we're lucky
That's
enough to
awesome.
still be here today.
That's very cool. We're going to say lucky a lot during this call. And I just have to acknowledge that's like, the name of your business as well. So just have to put that out there.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, I remember when you and I first connected and we're talking, and something that stuck out to me that I loved about the opportunity to work with you is that like you guys have a real legitimate family business. So do you mind
100%.
talking about that a little bit? Because like
Sure.
people hear that term and they're like, oh, it's a relative term, but tell everyone what that means to you because you have a real family business.
So originally, when I started training, it was just me. And then my husband decided to kind of join me, and he was watching me do all the work at home and helping me rotate dogs sometimes, and decided to, hey, if I'm going to help out and do things, I might as well, get paid for doing a lot of the work and doing the other stuff. So he joined in, and
Yep.
then we kind of transitioned together into our business. And then my oldest daughter decided to come and join us. And now she works with for us as well. So we have myself and my husband, my oldest daughter, and then my youngest is only 6, but she likes to help out as well. So we truly have all members of our family involved in helping out and doing things. And so it's really nice.
I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
legit all hands on deck.
100%. Well, and it
Yeah,
makes
that's
it
really cool.
it's nice because since everybody in the house understands, like, dogs come first. It's always first and foremost before anything else. So, it's that understanding of, hey, if we have something going on, or we might not be able to go to this thing or do that thing, until we get dogs handled first. So not a lot of
100%.
people
Yeah. And
understand that.
that's cool. Yeah, and I was just gonna say, Angel, you could definitely speak on this as well because, from my experience, I've always loved the opportunity of like working with dog trainers who maybe you just will run the company with your spouse or,
Mhm.
running it with like one of your kids and stuff like that. And what I've always found is there's that saying in business that people say like no one's gonna care about your business as much as you do. But I think there's
100%.
always that caveat of like except for your spouse or except for your kids.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, everyone's working towards this common good. And I'm
Mhm.
I'm a byproduct of working for my parents at different businesses they've done and stuff like that. And I just think it's honestly one of the greatest skills that you can give to your kids is like learning how to make money, simply
Oh,
put, and
100%.
learning how to do a good job with customer service and just generally learning how to run a business. So
Mhm.
Angel, I'm sure, I know you've coached so many trainers now, hundreds of trainers. I'm sure you've seen this as well, like working with like family businesses and just, couples and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I actually think it's a really interesting and unique experience that customers get to have with you guys. And like a really good selling point is like when your dog is away for training, they're in an actual family setting, or even
Mhm.
like if you happen to be doing like in-home, scenarios, like everyone is going to be involved, even your youngest. And so I think that's
Right.
really cool because especially if you have a client whose dog comes from a family with kids, like they're going to get that experience of being around another younger kid, but someone
Right.
who knows how to hold the dog accountable. My daughter was the same way. When I started training many years ago, she was very involved, even at a very young age. Like she was always so drawn to it and interested in it. And so that was a good selling point for me too, is I'm not going to sit there and like dangle my small child in front of your reactive dog, but when safe to
Right.
do so, like the whole family is involved and they're going to
Mhm.
get that exposure. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's been exciting for me to see that growth in my youngest as well, of that her being able to understand how what is safe to be around, what is not, how to present herself around animals. And even when she's not around our working dogs and she's out, in public around dogs she may not know, she handles those, better than, most of the kids I see on average today. So it's nice for her to be able to teach others about that too and share that and show, hey, this is how you should be, and utilizing that to kind of teach the dogs, hey, the kids aren't gonna, it's okay to be around kids. They're not gonna be in your face. They're gonna be, respectful. And that goes a long way with building confidence in the dogs as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I just like going back to what I was saying before, like I just think it's a good thing to be able to like as a parent be able to pass on your onto your kids like a really unique skill, you know?
Right.
And something we were kind of half joking about when we first before we even hit record here is like, Jamie, you run a tight ship over there. Like you're always I was joking about how you're always, dragging out kennels and like cleaning the facility out and stuff like that. That's something that's like really important to you. And you kind of said like we don't want people coming in and it smelling like a dog training facility or a dog kenneling facility and stuff like that. And, when you said that, it really kind of hit me like a ton of bricks because there's so many places that you do walk into. And I feel
Mhm.
like people start to lose touch with it over time. Like you're so used to and accustomed to like being in that environment and it just smells and looks a certain way. But
Mhm.
to the average dog owner or, yeah, just dog owner in general, like they go in there and like that's the first thing that hits them is like it
Mhm.
reeks of wet dog or whatever. It's like if you can avoid that, I think that that's a really smart thing to do. So I mean, what's your mindset on all that? Because I feel like this is something very tactical for people to hear about.
No, that's 100%. That is a really big deal to us. We take kind of our facility as like an extension of our home. And if I were to walk into a place and, like you said, it smelled like wet dog or, anything else, feces,
Yeah,
urine, anything, those, like it really kind of sets a really bad impression, like right off the bat. And that's kind of the
yeah,
biggest thing that you're doing is when you have people come into your facility, you're essentially stepping into my home. So if my facility's clean and everything smells good and I know that it's well taken care of, there's no second guessing that my dog is going to be taken care of because I know
mhm,
that, the facility is up to standard, up to par, things like that. And we
yeah,
even have gone so far as to, so with our day camp program, we actually schedule a 2-week break in between our sessions so that we can kind of pull everything out, clean everything top to bottom, make sure that our kennels are clean, our cots are clean, the floors are clean, the wall, like everything. We kind of go like front to back, top to bottom, and make sure everything gets a chance to get sanitized, wiped down, the whole nine.
yeah. I love that actually. My background before I ever got into marketing, I actually originally went to culinary school and I was a chef and I didn't last that long. And but the restaurants I did work in, like I worked for some executive chefs who were very meticulous like that. Like it was a lot of traditional French restaurants and every night they would have us drag out like all the stoves and the fryers and, get underneath and sweep everything up and scrub everything down and sanitize everything. At the time, you're kind of like, this is annoying. I don't want to have to do this. Like, can't we do this like every couple days? But there's just something about the fact of just like knowing it's clean and knowing everything is organized. I think Steve Jobs talked about this in his like biography where he was talking about I think it was like working on cars with his father and how his dad would say that like even the stuff that people will never see behind the dashboard, make sure that the wires are perfectly wrapped together and like pinned in place and stuff like that. Because it's like how you do the small things is how you do everything. And that's why, like, if you were to look at some of the earliest Apple computers, you would open them up and you would see the wires are like perfectly
Mhm.
straight and like, all, wrapped together and stuff like that. And you're like, no one ever sees it. But
Mhm.
that's what you think if nobody ever sees it. But you start with that mentality of like, no one's ever going to see it. What's the big deal? And then all of a sudden, that's how it just becomes sloppier and sloppier to the point where people are like walking into a facility where it smells like urine or wet dog or something like that. Like you don't even notice it anymore just because you live with it. But to
Right.
everybody else, it hits them like, a ton of bricks every time they walk in?
No, that's 100%. And it's funny that you say that, you used to work in a restaurant. And I think that that's probably where it comes from because I spent a good solid 10, 15 years in the restaurant industry serving, pulling out booths, cleaning behind, jumping
Yeah.
out the ice machine and doing all the things. So, but it does show a good, like your mentality on things of, hey, just because I'm not going to, or nobody else is going to see it doesn't mean I'm not going to see it. And that also goes, I think, to like your everyday mentality of trying to stay in a positive state of you're not going to be happy if you walk into a gross, dirty, disgusting building or room, or your dog's not going to want to go into that either. So why not spend that
Exactly.
little bit extra time making it better so that you can enjoy it 10 times as much as you would if it, if you didn't.
100%. Yeah, extremely well said. Now, so just kind of getting into your business a little bit more here. So, like I said before, we started 6 months ago together, and we were going over numbers here before we started the call. So, I'd love to just kind of hear if you're cool, kind of sharing this with everybody, like what your experience has been, and just a little bit about that. So, back in May of 2025, I know what we were kind of looking at was about on an average month, maybe like 5K a month. And like you were saying before, like maybe one board and train a month, sometimes not even a guarantee. And now things have dramatically changed. So do you mind just kind of talking about like what things look like nowadays for you, just like being 6 months out from getting started with us?
Sure. As far as like everything goes, my leads are more consistent. The phone's ringing consistently. People are coming in for consultations and we're getting those booked. And that's kind of the biggest like first step is getting them in the door. It's easy once you get them in and you can talk about what you're interested in and your passion and things like that. But getting that phone to ring, getting those consultations booked, getting those people in was pretty much the biggest struggle that we were having before. Everything was inconsistent. We were going slowly just off of referrals and things like that. But it wasn't where I could depend on those numbers every month. It was, kind of sitting back and hoping and wishing, okay, well, what other things do I need to do? And stressing out
Mm.
about, how do I stretch myself? How do I figure out how to pull these people in? And it almost felt like pulling teeth to get, to get leads in and get things kind of on the schedule and get booked. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we were averaging maybe one or two a month. We had a couple months where things are more than that, but not really consistent. And now we're pulling in on average, at least 4 to 5, well, 3 to 4 every month. Um, as far as board and train goes. And then I don't know, do you want me to go over like numbers and everything too?
Yeah. If you're cool doing that, I feel like
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
like a
sure.
really good thing for people to hear.
No, so let me pull this up so I can see this. We went from, like you said, 5K, and then September was kind of our first month that we really like popped off really big. So we were looking at 13,800 that month. October was 15,000. November was 14,000, and then we are fully booked to the end of the year into December. And it is a lighter schedule because of Christmas, but we're still looking at 8,000, just a little under 9,000 on that one. So we have consistently bringing in big numbers to where we're not struggling. I know, what to look forward to next month, how much where we're at. I don't have to worry about where the calls are going to come from. I don't have to worry about, am I going to be able to pay my bills this month, things like that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And you had mentioned to me too, like you said, like 13.8, 15K in October, $15,000 in November. You average those together. You've effectively 3x'd your revenue in your business in a couple months,
Mhm.
which is insane to think about.
100%.
If you were to even 1.5 multiply it, like that would be a great growth in a year.
Right.
But the fact that you're tripling your revenue in such a short amount of time is totally wild to think about.
Hmm.
The other thing too that you had mentioned is like that revenue doesn't even fully include everything that you guys do in the business as well, because that's
Correct.
excluding the day camp stuff too.
Correct. That's just board and trains and lessons. Yeah, day camp is not included in that either.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times people just are, like you were saying, kind of hoping and praying for the phone to ring. And sadly, I've done that myself. It's not a real strategy, but
No,
you can
it's not.
cling to that because like some months are good and you're like, oh, well, maybe it's picking up and then it slows down again. It gets really tiresome, like just waiting on the phone to ring. And I
Mhm,
just think that the most important thing when it comes to marketing is just having predictability. That's the
mhm,
term I always hear people use when I talk to them on calls. It's just like, I just want to have consistent, predictable leads coming in. And that way I just don't need to worry, like, where is the next person coming from?
right. Well, and it adds stress to you too, because then if you do only have one or two leads coming in that month and then something happens and you don't book those, now you've added stress on top of, oh, well, questioning, what am I doing? Is that person, did I make them upset? Did they not like me? Why did they not book? And that just kind of feeds into that long term as well, because now you're not, trying to stay in that positive mindset and you're allowing those things to kind of, make it snowball and get even worse possibly.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you just touched on something that's so true. And Angel, I want to hear from you on this as well, because this is something I see a lot of dog trainers deal with is having, or not, I should say, not having marketing isn't just as simple as like, okay, the phone isn't ringing, right? That's one major symptom of having lack of good marketing. But another thing is exactly what you were saying, Jamie, is like, the leads you do get when it's inconsistent, you feel like you need to close everybody because you're like, I don't know where the next lead's going to come from. And when you feel that way, you're operating from a place of scarcity, not abundance. And because you're operating from a place of scarcity, you do things to get everybody to say yes. And that looks like saying yes to clients you don't actually want to work with. That's discounting services to the point where you're just like, just trying to get them to say yes. And I'll just take whatever I can get. And just keeping your prices way below what they ever should be. That's something that I always think about too with you is like you said before, is like you came right in and you were pumped to raise your prices because when you have more leads coming in, you can take a shot on goal and you can say, you know what? If this person doesn't say yes to me, it's okay because I have 5 other people that I have lined up for consults this week. It's all good. They're not for me. So Angel, I mean, how have you seen that manifest for clients? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. Like you start running like your mindset from a place of, like you said, scarcity or almost coming off as like desperation. Or the biggest thing that I talk to people about is like go into this consultation not with the mindset of I really need to sell this person, but with the mindset of let me just build a really good relationship with this person. I am the professional dog trainer. They need help. I have the solution to their problem. So that will eventually come. But let me go in just with the goal of building a relationship with them because that is the most important thing when you're going to make a sale. So that's got to come first. So, yeah, I mean, I think that just having the marketing and specifically Google Ads, it helps kind of take some of that worry off and maybe like subconsciously changes your mindset because now you don't have all of these worries of like when is my next call going to come in, when is the next person going to find my name out there and stuff like that. But just mindset overall. I remember my first call with you, Jamey, was our onboarding call. And I said this to multiple people on our team, so I'll say it to you. But I remember in that call, you were you were like a light. You were so positive. You were so eager to just get the ball rolling and make changes in your business, however that looked. You were so open to changing your pricing and changing the structure of that kind of stuff. And that is so, so important. Someone can look for marketing to expand their business, but when you don't already have the mindset attached of I'm ready to do this and I'm going to be open-minded to doing whatever needs to be done for my business, then it's like, you're just kind of like butting heads with yourself. And yeah, you were just like so ready to get after it. And I know that you regularly talk with your coach Leanne now, but she continues to say the same thing. Like, we love you, and it's all about mindset. It really makes a huge impact on your success.
No, that's 100%. And right before I got into like my career with dog training, I went through a leadership and emotional intelligence workshop for about 6 months. And a lot of my mindset comes from that because one of the biggest things that they, I don't want to say preached, but taught was more of you have to be passionate about what you are enrolling people in. And if you aren't passionate about that and you can't like speak from the heart, and if you don't truly believe in what you're doing, how are you supposed to get people to sign up for a board and train? How are you supposed to get people to trust you with their dog? How are you supposed to get people to, invest in you and your company and you in general? Because and at the end of the day, the business is you. It's your face, it's your stuff, it's what you're putting out there. So if you aren't in that mindset and in putting that out there, people are going to have a harder time believing you and investing in you and wanting to come back time and time again. And I think that's such a true testament to like my passion for this industry and for training dogs in general and helping people and being that, voice of, hey, like, yeah, it's a crappy situation, but you know what? Like, we have to find the positive in it because if not, you're not going to get out on the other side of it.
I love
Very
that.
true. Yeah, extremely true. Yeah, and I always just think about, some people totally write off the whole mindset thing. And I do think that there's people who, you can go too far in either direction. Just because you wake up in the morning and tell yourself affirmations in the mirror of becoming a billionaire doesn't mean you're going to become a billionaire. You need to, apply some action there as well. But
Right.
there's the other side of it, which I think most people are sadly on, which is they write the whole thing off, and they just think like, oh, that couldn't possibly be it. But I've just been doing this for long enough to know and be able to pretty confidently spot it, right away. Like with you as the example, just really excited for the opportunity to like meet with more people. really excited when the phone would ring, right? And not getting down in the dumps if like the first person didn't buy a $5,000 program from them, you know? If you wake up every single day and just have the intention of just, you know what, I'm going to try and squeeze every single last ounce of juice as I possibly can out of today, you're always going to end up in a better spot than you were yesterday, you know?
Mhm.
So Jamie, I'd actually love to hear more from you on that because I feel like you have a lot to share on this topic as far as like mindset goes and like what were you like prior to going to that workshop? Was this something you were always interested in, or was that like kind of like a really transformative experience for you?
It was a really extremely transformative experience for me. I highly recommend it to anybody if you know someone that's been or you know like somewhere that has some sort of program to go through. Even if you think I have my shit together, no, like do it. Go and spend your time because it is absolutely worth it. I guarantee you do not have your life together and it will transform you and make you a better person.
Yeah. Wait, what
Really
was the name of the program you went through?
so it was called Next Level. I
Cool.
know during COVID they shut down their like physical facility, but they have some online stuff. It's based out of
Hmm.
Columbus here in Ohio. Absolutely
Oh, cool.
amazing program. But it not only did it help me like work through a lot of the things like the self doubt, building confidence in myself, but it gave me the tools that I needed to continue being successful, which is very similar to, kind of what we've built like our training programs off of. If I go in and just teach you like kind of the foundation, if you don't have that support system later on, then you're probably not going to be successful. But if I teach you and I give you the tools to continue to be able to go forward, then, your success relies on you and using those tools. So, being taught like how to get through those things, how to get out of unstuck from your head, unstuck from your own committee, not listening to the voices in your head that tell you, hey, you're a crap person when you know for sure that you're not.
Mm.
But it was amazing. Some of the best experiences of my life. We actually did a fundraiser at the end of our program that raised, I think, almost $200,000 for one of the local community programs.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
just phenomenal experience. Learning how to get out of that and how to get out of negative space and how to be a more positive person has done nothing but wonderful things for my life. The confidence
That's
to
beautiful.
get into this career. Not saying I was like a crappy person before, but I had some issues, anger problems, some stress, anxiety, just really wasn't in a good place in my life at all, and was struggling with some things. And then this became an opportunity that someone gave to me and took a chance on me, actually. And so I got in it and started and didn't never look back. So, but
That's beautiful.
that also is like how you have your family and talking about like bringing my family onto this, we there's other people in my family that have gone through and done the program as well and done the workshops, and so getting to share that experience with them on top of everything else, like not only did it help me but it also helped like the people around me, so the people I love, and getting them to help kind of build that positivity and stay in that mindset makes things a lot easier in the long run.
100%. Yeah. It kind of reminds me, I have some friends that I believe the name of the program is called like Landmark or something like that. I think that's the popular one. That's the people do. Again, some people write that off as like very woo woo and kind of silly and oh, it's so preachy and it's like a cult or something like that. But it's like
Oh yeah, we
you
get that
kind of
all the
need to,
time.
yeah. And to me, I'm like, okay, there's some weird stuff out there for sure, but like
Oh yeah,
all you
not yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you need to look at the fruits. You need to look at like, did somebody go through this and are they better off now than they were
Mhm,
before they entered? You know? And if the
100%.
answer is yes, they're happier, they're brighter, they're doing better, they're a better parent, whatever it may be for you, it's hard to deny that that was a smart thing for them to do.
Mhm. Oh, 100%. It unfortunately, kind of speaking on that more of a personal level, we had some issues with people in our lives that like use those terminologies. Oh, it's a cult. You drank the Kool-Aid. It's like, okay, well, if I'm in a cult and I drank the Kool-Aid, then why am I a better person now than I was 6 months ago? Why is my husband a better person? Why are these things benefiting our lives,
Yeah,
not, dragging me down? Like I've been nothing but successful. And it's weird because especially when you come to someone with that information of, hey, I care about you enough to tell you about this, but do you care about yourself enough to be open to taking in the information and changing? Because you can't force somebody to do those things. They absolutely have to be
exactly.
you have to want it. You have to be willing to listen and be open to taking in the information. And if you're not going to get anywhere. Nothing's going to change. You're just going to struggle 10 times more because you're frustrated. But if you're open to those things and you're willing to learn and be educated, there's nothing but benefit to come from those things, whether it's, a leadership program or even educating yourself on training or marketing or, whatever it is. The more that you can put your mind into an educated space and learn and better yourself, it's only going to be for the benefit of you going forward.
100%. Yeah. And I think it's the age old when people see other people getting well and just happy, if
Hmm.
that's not you, it makes you really uncomfortable, is
Oh
really
yeah.
what it comes down to. And that's coming from somebody who's been on both sides of that. Like I've been at points in my life where like things aren't going the way I want them to go. And been looking for someone to blame. And all of a sudden there's a change in somebody. It can almost breed resentment in you where you go like,
Hmm.
now they think they're better than me. Now they're holier than thou, all that stuff. And on the reverse side of things, like there was points in my life where I really needed to clean up my act, let's just say. And once I did that, kind of lost friendships over it. And it's a really weird thing to go through, but not everybody is going to be along for the ride with you. And just
Right.
even there's that saying for relationships, that's like people come along for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, And
Hmm.
I think that's very, very true. So
Oh,
with that being
100%.
said, I mean, I could talk to you about this for another like hour and a half. I just want to say like anytime it's like the same thing with like Tony Robbins. Like if I listen to like a Tony Robbins seminar or something, I'm like fired up afterwards, I'm like,
Oh yeah,
this makes me want to
100%.
go and like help people and do good things and grow my business and stuff. I'm like, how could that possibly be a bad thing,
Right. Well, and I think it's a scary avenue because it gets easy to be negative. Like our world, and our society, like it breeds that negativity so easily. And it's such an easy space to get into that when you're presented with those opportunities to, be positive or get out of that mindset, that work or that ladder to climb is so daunting and scary. And it's like, well, what if I fail? But yeah, what if you fail? But what if you succeed? What if
Yes.
even if you're not the best at something, you can still be better than you were yesterday. And that is 10 steps forward more than you taking 10 steps back and going, well, it's not worth it and just not doing it.
Yeah, yeah. There's something I want to add to that. But Angel, is there anything you want to add to this? I don't want to dominate the conversation because I have like another million questions I want to ask Jamey.
No, I did want to add to something that Jamie just said too. Like, it's hard to kind of like climb out of that negative mindset or feel like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need to change or anything like that. But when you do make that change, I feel like it's much easier to then recognize when you are getting into kind of like that negative mindset again. Like, speaking from experience, I was kind of the same way. Like, a long time ago, I had a little bit of a temper on me. I, had like a short fuse. I could be like pessimistic and stuff like that. And I made a big change for myself and my life and my mindset. And so now it's a lot easier for me to recognize maybe when I'm kind of like, not in a great mood or I'm overtired and I just start getting like a little cranky or pessimistic. It's almost like I can physically feel it. Like, ew, like stop those thoughts. So
Right.
it's so much easier to recognize when those are happening. And then it's almost like the self awareness is just heightened.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, it
super
also
well said.
makes your experiences going through day-to-day stuff too, where I feel like it makes it easier to be more understanding of people and not let people affect you as much because you realize like, hurt people. And when
Yeah.
you're having a bad day and you're lashing out, bad drivers, whatever, like it's easier to kind of take it with a grain of salt and be like, oh, you need a little bit of love in your life today to make you feel better. And I feel
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
makes it easier to shift into the positive rather than feed back into their negativity.
Yeah, and you also like being on both sides, you realize like how much more energy it takes
Mhm.
being a negative person than it actually does just like being positive or being neutral,
Right,
you know?
100%. Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you may
Yeah,
not have to
exactly.
you may not like it, but you at least gotta find a way to be neutral.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
100%. And there's a great book that I've referenced many times on this podcast, and it really is like the original self-help book. Like all these people that have gone on to write different books, like this to me is like the origin of this as far as like new age nonfiction goes. And it's written by this doctor, Maxwell Maltz, and it's
Mhm.
called Psycho-Cybernetics. And I'll never forget, like this book was, to anyone who's listening to this, like if you haven't read this to me was a very, very transformative book and just one of the most impactful things I've ever read. And I remember him talking about this exact thing that you said before, Jamey. in the book about how it's so easy to constantly envision, like, what if it goes wrong? Like, what if this doesn't work? Right. And that's how all of us as adults at a certain point, it's so
Hmm.
interesting when you look back to your childhood, like you're in class and you would be daydreaming about whatever it is. Like maybe I'm going to go to play in Major League Baseball one day, or maybe I'm going to be an actress, or maybe I'm going to be an astronaut. Like anything you wanted to be, the world was kind of in front of you. And you would daydream about that stuff that you were like excited about.
Hmm.
And then at a certain point, you start getting kind of like hardened by life and reality starts like hitting you and stuff like that. And you stop doing that and you start doing the opposite, where you start playing in your head like a movie of like everything failing and
Hmm.
not working. And he talks about in the book how it's like, it's possible to still do that like very like youthful way of thinking of like thinking about starting this business and it working extremely well. I mean, that's what manifestation is all about.
Hmm.
You know, you
Oh,
start
100%.
thinking about stuff, bringing it into life. And I think it was Sam Snead, the golfer, how he did this. Like before every shot he would hit, he would just envision it going in the hole, you
Hmm.
know? And it seems like a little tiny stupid thing, but it's like, if you think about that, you know, hitting it in the hole, it's like it's like shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars versus
Hmm.
thinking about like, I'm going to shank this ball into the woods. Guess what? You probably will, you know?
Right.
So I just think that like, you know, this is the Top Dog Mindset podcast and all of this stuff does matter. And I would just really caution anybody who's like, if you've ever heard anything like this and just kind of thrown it out as like silliness or yeah, that's not real, just open your mind to it. Read some stuff
Hmm.
about it because I think it will really change your life if you do.
100%. Well, and not only that, but the connections that you make with people and getting to be connected with other people that understand that mindset and are in that mindset now. Now you have the ability to not only, continue the life that you had, but you have new friendships and new connections and new relationships that you've opened up with people. And if you're struggling, guess what? When you are struggling, you go to those people to ask for support. Hey, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. Those people are already going to be there for you where you don't have to think, well, what do I do? Who do I reach out to? Who's going to understand me? Well, guess what? Now you have a whole bunch of people that understand you and have
Yep.
know how to support you.
Exactly. You have a really good community, you know?
Yep.
That's
Building that
cool.
community is super, super important, not only just in mindset, but also in as far as building your business as well. I know this is kind of like jumping a little bit around, but we use that connection with, like meeting people in the community, going out and talking to the vets, going and talking to, the pet stores or any of the local mom and pop shops that might sell dog products or go to the bank, go to, all these different places where you can go drop off business cards, talk to people. Even if you don't get anybody, just go talk to people, talk to your bankers, because you never know what opportunity is going to pop up. And somebody's going to be like, hey, I have a crappy dog. We have a client that's a dog trainer. Let me send you their information, so you
Yep.
can utilize those at every opportunity. But so that building that community helps not just mentally, but also business wise too.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, so we're coming up on the hour here. And so I always love to kind of like wrap these interviews up with one last question. So, you know, if you were putting yourself back in the same exact shoes that you were in 6 months ago, and there's another dog trainer who's in that same exact situation now that you were in then, what is the advice? What is the advice that you would give to that person? Like, what is the advice that you would give to a trainer who is right now in the exact spot that you were in 6 months ago?
Ask for help. You are one person. Ask for help. Even if the answer if the person you ask for help can't help you, maybe they can send you in a direction. But getting help and getting support and talking with someone that maybe either knows what they're doing or can help you, be more consistent or follow through or whatever it is. But asking for that support is such an important thing because if you're stuck and you're not pulling in leads and you don't know how to get more leads, talk to somebody that does. If you suck at answering the phone, ask for support with answering the phone. If you don't do well with admin stuff, ask for support for someone who can. If you try to take on everything just yourself, you're never going to get anywhere because every time you get 2 steps ahead, something's going to happen and you're going to be 10 steps behind. And getting that
Yeah.
support system is so important in order to be successful because you're only one person and you can't do every job.
Really well said. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly something I've done in my life is try to convince myself I can do everything. And then the ironic thing is like you end up, not that it's all about money, but that's the easiest kind of yardstick to use in business. And you end up leaving money on the table. You're like, I don't want to pay somebody to do that. I don't want to pay for marketing. I don't want to pay for somebody to help me answer the phone. I don't want to pay another trainer or a kennel tech. It's like, what is the opportunity cost of that? You know, it's
Mhm.
like you spend years in your business not marketing yourself because you don't want to spend money on it, or not, you know, paying somebody to answer calls because you don't want to pay the money. And I'll just call the clients back. It's like, well, that's great in theory until you realize that you're hemorrhaging money because people have moved on and got a different trainer, or
Mhm.
there's somebody else in your market who is not as good of a dog trainer as you, but they're getting all the business because they have better marketing than you
Right.
know?
100%.
And so, yeah, you just can't do everything yourself. So that's really well said. Yeah. Very cool. Well, listen, we're at the hour here, so we're going to wrap things up. But I just want to say thank you to everybody listening. Jamey, special thank you to you for coming on. This was awesome.
Of course.
And for me as well. And yeah, I mean, I'm just so psyched that you're doing so well in your business. We love having you as a client. And so we'll have to do another one of these in the future and get another like progress.
100%. I'd be interested in see where things are at in the next couple of months.